Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the OHM podcast. This week I'm joined by Nathan Lomax. He's a speaker, investor, and a mentor, and he's also co-founded and runs QuickFire Digital, which won European eCom Agency of the Year a few years back. Now, at QuickFire, these guys help generate real results through building and optimizing a brand's online presence, so specifically focusing on their website. So whether it's traditional retailers or e-com giants, Nathan and QuickFire are very successful in what they do, and I'm really excited to have them on the podcast today. So Nathan, great to have you.
Jordan, thanks for having me, and what a lovely welcome.
Cool. So look, jumping straight into it then, I know you've been at QuickFire since the start, obviously co-founding the business, so way back in 2017. What led you to kind of start the business and take that step?
Yeah, so I actually had a business before that. So I left school 2012, decided I didn't want to go to university. I personally don't think university is right for everybody. And so I decided to set up a business. It was called nathanlomax.com, awfully vain at the time, but it felt like that was the right thing to do. Grew that, and I was living a fantastic life, very much a lifestyle business. And I guess the grass is always greener, right? When you've got a lifestyle business, and then you always look over the fence and go, I want that kind of business. And then when you're in this kind of business, you're like, blimey, I would love to go and have a lifestyle business. And so, yeah, we decided 2017 to come together with two others, Fred, who's my co-founder, and Martin, my other co-founder, to create what is QuickFire Digital today. So 1st of June 2017, we came together. I realised that personally, I couldn't justify hiring a head of development and a lead strategist at the time, and therefore it made sense to kind of go down the equity route and work together. And those guys would have had their own reasons for why they wanted to come in. But all in all, we all came together with that kind of concept of best in class. I can do the bits I enjoy, Fred can do the bits he enjoys, Martin can do the bits he enjoys, and then we can deliver the best results for our clients. So that happened 1st of June 2017. Didn't quite expect it to kind of kick off as quickly as it did. And then come 2019, we decided to niche and focus on Shopify and e-commerce. Get to 2020, thank goodness we did. E-commerce went ballistic, and then just kind of ridden that wave ever since. So there's now 34, 35 of us in the team here in Norwich, going from strength to strength. There's of course growing pains, challenges, as there is in any business, but immensely proud of what we've built. I'm really excited to see what the remainder of 2024 holds, and of course, what we plan to do in 2025.
For sure. And you mentioned there the partners in the business being kind of complementary. Can you just talk through what the different kind of pieces to that puzzle are?
Of course. So Martin looks after systems, process, finance. I think it's important when you're setting up a business, if you do go in with co-founders, to, I guess, have that emotional vulnerability that says, you know what, I am, or I guess emotional intelligence rather than vulnerability, to say, I am not great at this, and to have the humility to say, I am happy for someone else to run that part. Okay, because I'm not the best person for that. So systems, process, finance with Martin, all bits I don't particularly enjoy. And then Fred over here in terms of e-commerce strategy, that's his strength. And then for me, new business, sales and growth. That's a bit I enjoy and live and breathe. And so the idea is that everyone can do the bits that they are best at to deliver the best results. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes there's a challenge, but all in all, I think it's certainly been the best for our business.
Okay. And did you guys, so you mentioned you pivoted kind of industry or focused on an industry. Did you always offer the same service, or did that evolve over time too?
Yeah, that evolved. I mean, originally we were doing everything for everybody. And I think that's a challenge. And particularly in today's world, that kind of preference towards specialists rather than generalists is certainly coming through. But originally we were doing Google Ads and SEO and and you name it, like website builds in WordPress, in a custom system, in Shopify. And then we decided we were just going to focus on Shopify. That's going to improve our process, our efficiency, our quality of output. And we've then just kicked on from there, really.
Okay. So was that around the 2020 time with the ecom boom that you focused
Yeah,
on?
it was 2019. We decided to, like, towards the end of 2019. And then it was really just super fortunate that 2020 happened, and obviously an awful event, but it was kind of right place, right time. And we just then really exploded as everyone initially panicked for the first few months and didn't know what to do. And then they were like, e-commerce might be the opportunity for us to trade out of this situation. And blimey, then inquiries were coming in quicker than we could handle. And we really took the opportunity with both hands. continue to scale the agency, and then really never look back.
Okay. And then at what point did you kind of cut off the other services and, Google Ads? When did that fall by the wayside?
Yeah, 2019, around that similar time, I think the challenge was I personally don't believe in the full service model. Like at the time, let's say we were 9 people, right? Like we couldn't possibly deliver a full service. Like we didn't have tons of SEO people or tons of PPC people. And things like Shopify are changing so frequently and the web's changing so frequently, we really needed to be masters of our craft. So actually by focusing on Shopify, we could go far deeper rather than doing, oh, I know a little bit about PPC, a little bit of SEO. No, we're going to absolutely double down on Shopify. We're going to live and breathe it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. And then talking about your craft then, so in terms of, Shopify and the development side of the website, what do you think most people are doing wrong, and why do they come to you for help?
A good question. I mean, most people have the store, they build it and leave it and expect the rest to happen. So I see actually the problem isn't always in the way it's built. It's in the fact that it's been neglected and left. So we talk about continuous improvement and marginal gains. And to me, any brand that builds a site, they put a decent investment behind the site and then they just think that's it, right? But the thing is, it's continuously evolving. So one thing is that within the Shopify ecosystem, there's 9,000 apps. Okay, so a lot of people are like stacking the website full, or the tech stack that's being built is just being piled higher and higher and higher with apps to solve problems, where actually sometimes there's a business case for an app, sometimes there's a business case to do it custom. So I see more and more brands coming to us that have got a hugely bloated site. The site's not particularly sweating as hard as it possibly can, and actually they haven't got time to dedicate to constantly think about new things or how it's going to improve or how they're going to drive up average order value or conversion rate. So they're coming to us to really help steer them and say, you know what, guys, I think you want to have a look at this, or could you consider this, or what about this, or why don't we split test this? And that's where I think a lot of brands are falling down.
Okay. And then in terms
Well,
of
just very quickly before your next question, let me just let that dog out because she keeps. Can you hear her in the background?
No.
Okay, good. I'll just quickly let her out because she keeps squealing. Hopefully, we managed to catch it in a pause and it wasn't too disruptive. Go for it, mate.
Okay. I think the next question, in terms of design, I hear this a lot of clients wanting, nicely designed landing pages and for them to look pretty. Is that what you guys kind of look at, or is it kind of function over that?
Yeah, you know what? It's a real tough kind of line to tread because yes, you want the user experience to be spot on. Yes, you want it to look great. Yes, you want to be proud of the work, but also the brand is going to judge you on the results. So has it improved conversion rate? Has it improved average order value? Or has it improved the reordering experience? Or whatever the KPI or metric is, has it made a tangible difference? And if it does, then the brand's going to keep working with you and come back to you time and time again. Whereas if it doesn't, but it looks great, well, that's fine, but then they might not be able to justify spending more. So particularly with our retained clients, the idea is to have some kind of commerciality behind the conversation to say, what are we actually trying to achieve here over a 6-month, a 12-month, a 24-month period? We want to take the brand from 4 million to 6 million. In order to do that, where are you right now with conversion rate? Where are you right now with revenue? Where are you right now with sales? Where are you right now with average order value? And how can we look at incremental improvements in those as well as sessions where we'll be working alongside their SEO agency, the pay-per-click agency, the social agency, the email agency, etc. How do we all come together to drive up those numbers? And if we do so, then the uplift in revenue will fall at the bottom. The evolution of that conversation is, okay, it's all well and good driving up revenue, but what are we doing about profitability? Is there ways we can consolidate costs, we can reduce spend, and we can make sure that not only you're driving revenue, but you're also improving margin?
Okay. And are those commercial KPIs, are they driven by the business or by you guys?
They're normally driven by us in terms of a kind of way of working or our philosophy in order to drive an e-commerce store. So average order value, conversion rate, and sessions are the 3 kind of levers that we look to pull. Admittedly, we don't heavily impact sessions ourselves or work with external partners, but conversion rate and average order value are the real metrics that we personally look at. I mean, lifetime value would be the other one if you were looking from a web development perspective. So how can we get people spending more every time they shop, spending more over the lifetime of their existence with the brand, and every time we're driving traffic, how can we make sure that we're converting above industry average of, say, 2%? How we're making sure that we're giving ourselves every opportunity to convert more of those visitors into paying customers.
Okay. And what levers can we pull that typically impact those KPIs the most?
Yeah, interesting. I mean, conversion rate wise, we often offer a conversion rate audit. There's about 280 different levers that we look to pull within conversion rate as a discipline. Typically, it doesn't have to be overly complex, so it can be as basic as something like an urgency trigger. It can be something like a free delivery threshold. It can be something like if we're looking at average order value, an upsell cross-sell metric in the sidecar, or potentially on a PDP or a product page. So I think there's certain tactics that then drive the wider strategy, but actually for me, you'll be amazed how many are actually fairly fundamental and basic, but they're just overlooked because they're not new and shiny. The thing I always think about is FAQs on product page. Like the uplift we've had with brands where we just haven't hidden FAQs, but we've brought FAQs to a product page, and I think that's not very sexy. Like, who's going to want that? And blimey, does it had a huge improvement? So I think there's quite a lot of brands that have maybe chased new and shiny and haven't got fundamentals. And I think if a lot of brands could just take stock and go, okay, let's just have an audit. Where are we? Where do we want to get to? What are the basic opportunities we're leaving on the table? Let's get those tidied up. Another one, of course, if you look at core web vitals and page speed and performance, you and I both know when we're browsing on a site, if it's not loading quickly, if we're not able to navigate easily, then we're going to bounce and go elsewhere, right? Because competition is massive. So how do we make sure that we're delivering the best experience for every customer, whether you're first time or repeat customer? And how do we personalize that experience? And that's what I'm seeing more and more at the moment, is those that are personalizing the experience to make it feel like it's tailored for your eye are having far better results than people that are kind of spraying and praying and say, well, that's the experience, take it or leave it. It doesn't matter if you've never shopped with us or you shop with us constantly, you're just going to have the same experience. The one I really like is personalization engines, where you can start to say, okay, well, if the male's visiting a website, show me this version. If a female's visiting, show me this version. Or if this type of persona is visiting, do this. And if that type of persona is visiting, do that. I think those websites where they're getting smarter and smarter are naturally going to have an improvement in conversion rate, right? If you're going online and you're looking for a certain product and it knows a bit about you and can help navigate you across the journey, then fantastic. Another great example I see is quizzes. So we've built a few custom quizzes. The one that springs to mind is fourth grade for a feeding guide. So you go through and you collect the information about the dog and the weight and their exercise profile, and then you start to tailor an experience that says, actually, these recommendations are just for you and your dog. This is specifically for you. We're not just saying buy the 25 kilogram worth of dog food because that's what everyone has. We're saying give us a little information, tell us about your dog, and we will personally recommend what's right for them based on, like I say, their dietary requirements, their weight, where they want to get to in terms of age and healthy lifestyle, etc. And I think that's massively powerful.
Okay. Do you think that's going to be kind of one of the trends that takes over and combined with AI as well? Is that personalization focus?
Definitely, yeah. Personalization and AI, absolutely. I think I was looking at a live chat solution the other day, and I think more and more now we are seeing AI come into live chat solutions where you're able to ask a question and it can go back through a kind of LLM and say, actually, based on this, I've scraped the product page, I've scraped the home page. Not only can I give the answer, but I can give it in the tone of voice that's relevant to the brand. And I think that's where we're seeing more and more brands go. So it's all well and good just having some AI plugged into the site that delivers results quickly, but that's 50% of the challenge. The other is, now can you deliver it quickly and in the tone of voice and on brand that makes it feel like it's our own native experience? If you can, then absolutely, I think that's the way that people are going and will continue to go going into 2025.
Okay. Shifting gears slightly, or just kind of going back to that prior point, really. You mentioned the characteristics and the KPIs for brands. My question is, does that change based on their size? So a seven-figure versus an eight-figure brand, are there different levers that you would look to pull?
Yeah, interesting. You know what? I think the fundamentals always remain. I think the challenge normally is to get to scale, and then you might start thinking like profitability. I know so many brands that like quickly scale to 2, 3, 4 million pound, but they're not massively profitable. And then they get to kind of 10 million quid, and then they're like, right, okay, like I've got this far, but now actually we need to start tightening up on things and just improving the margin. So that's probably the biggest one I would see different. I think based on a lot of private equity money that's been pumped into a lot of brands out there, I think that investors are starting to, and this doesn't matter if it's B2B or D2C, like investors are starting to look more at margin rather than just brand awareness. And I think we'll only see that increasing over time, where people are like, actually, I need to make sure that every pound I'm investing, I'm getting X pounds back. So yeah, I think gone are the days where people can just be super well known. I certainly look at that in the tech partner community, and I think, blimey, there used to be a lot of budget flying around for people wanting to kind of be known and seen, etc. But I think now people are like, okay, if I'm going to invest $5,000, what am I going to see for it? What's the return going to be? And how can you turn my $5,000 into 10 grand? And I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? If it was my money, I'd want to do the same. But I think that's slightly difficult for some brands where they're actually would like to do some top of the funnel activity. They don't just want to constantly be focused on conversion and driving sales. It's like, actually, we would like some brand awareness and to explore some creative campaigns to tap into new audiences, etc., where everything is so drilled now to look at the results. If I put £1 in, how do I get £2 out? And I think that commerciality is, like, I think of a lovely brand of ours, Beavertown, right? And actually, something I've always loved about them is they've stayed true to their principles. So sometimes around key seasonal dates, whether it be Halloween or Christmas or just throughout the year, they've got a page on their website that's kind of like, you drag the mouse around it just takes this, like, it's almost like the game Snake. It kind of just drags this thing around. It's like, I often thought when we're building that, I think, how's this going to impact conversion? Like, how's this going to turn the needle? And I think, actually, you know what? It's not all about conversion. It's not all about average order value. Actually, for them as a brand, they're known for out the ordinary, fun, quirky, imaginative, creative. Like, absolutely, this fits in. And so I'd love to see brands not losing all personality by just focusing on the numbers. But I also would kind of suggest to brands that are super creative, don't lose sight of the numbers. So there's a fine line to tread, right, between being super commercial and being super creative and on brand. And how do we get that track somewhere in the middle?
Okay. You also talked about optimization and the kind of ongoing work that you do with clients. My first question is, at what stage does that make sense for a brand to start looking at? And then second question is kind of what sort of things should they be looking at there?
Okay, so firstly, what sort of stage? I'd say, well, naturally sooner rather than later, but realistically for us, if you're working with us, it'd be £750,000 upwards. I think if you're spending 2 or 3 grand a month on improving the site, realistically, you need to be doing 40, 50 grand a month to start to make that, no, those numbers make sense. Because also, I always say to people, look, it's pointless, Jordan, if you're just going to improve the website and make it sweat harder, but you're not going to drive quality of traffic or spend time driving traffic, then this is all a bit of a vanity exercise. Like, you've got to be driving traffic, and vice versa. Don't spend all your budget driving traffic and then drive them to a store that isn't fit for purpose. So there is absolutely, the two, traffic and conversion, work hand in hand. Was the second question about tactics to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of the tactics, we particularly around conversion rate. I mean, we touched on some of these earlier, but I've got this checklist, which, to be honest, like, if any brand listening wants to find out more or have a look, etc., I'm more than happy to do one for you free of charge, and you can check it out yourselves and just see where your own store is performing. But the big thing for me, I normally start with a 6-month plan, and I like to start at the end and work backwards. So think about the checkout experience, and whether that be a sidecar or a fixed cart, and the checkout experience itself, if you're on Shopify Plus or Shopify Standard, and then just go back from there. So go into product page. How can we make sure that's sweat as hard as possible? And then into collection pages, into the home page, and then start to think, okay, well, what about competition pages and landing pages and that kind of thing? Where are we leaving opportunity on the table, and where can we tighten things up? One of the things we often do at the start or onboarding is all around trying to understand strategically where they're trying to get to, and actually looking at some kind of app audit. You'll be amazed how many stores have a load of apps that they maybe have used and no longer used, but the code's still there, or they are thinking about using but haven't got time to implement it properly, or that kind of thing. Or actually, there's 2 or 3 apps that do a very similar thing, and you just think, you know what, you're paying money here that you don't need to. So actually, I think of the one particularly around loyalty. Sometimes you've got 2 or 3 loyalty modules that are all doing something fairly similar, and you think, actually, there's a chance of consolidation here. You could just use this one. And actually, if you spoke to the tech partner and had a relationship with the tech partner, they could probably say, oh, if you just press this, and unlock this and press this, you can achieve everything you wanted to achieve. But I think a lot of people are going down the self-serve route, don't have the relationship with the tech partner, and then just scratch the surface of the app. And they're like, oh, that was expensive. Paid £300 a month for that. Didn't get what I wanted from it. Did you speak to their onboarding team, or their kind of setup team. Oh no, we didn't. No, I just got it out of the box and couldn't work it out and got busy and then just left it. And you think, well, in the nicest possible way, I don't think that's all on the tech. Like you got to think like you need to give it every possible opportunity. We talk a lot about making things sweat as hard as possible. Too many brands, in my opinion, are leaving cash on the table because they haven't got time to finish the task they started.
Okay, I like that. In terms of that optimization piece, what's the kind of time span that the brand should be looking to invest and what kind of results?
Yeah, I always say to me, it's normally a 12-month program, which I'm very fortunate that a lot of our brands then carry on from there in 24, 36, 48 months, etc. But realistically, 6 months is a minimum term before you start seeing tangible results. Like, yes, okay, you might start seeing results in 3, and often a brand will want a break clause at 3 just in case, and that's absolutely fine. But I just worry for brands that, just try it for a month, and then you're like, actually, in the nicest possible way, the first month's normally onboarding anyways. You start to understand the code base and what's going on and what the plans are. If you're looking to achieve results overnight and suddenly take a conversion rate from 2% to 10%, I think you're being missold.
Yep. Okay. And I know we're tight on time, so I just wanted to touch on you and kind of life outside of business. So I
Sure.
know you keep pretty busy. Yeah, you're obviously running a business. You're also doing mentoring, a lot of speaking, and a lot of kind of family stuff as well. First question is, how do you find the time to do all of that?
You know what? It's becoming harder and harder. I think as the business gets bigger, it's needing more of my time, which are then meaning other balls in my personal life are dropped. So let's use gym as a perfect example. Um, I like to go to the gym 3 times a week, and I really, despite what my other half might think, I generally really want to go, right? But actually, when you're running a business that's onboarding new people, onboarding new clients, etc., that is taking priority, and therefore I can't do those things. And up until recently, I've been able to do all those things. But right now, I've said, look, something's got to give. And to be honest, I don't want it to be the clients or the team growth, etc., etc. So it's got to be something in my personal life. And I'm trying desperately to find the balance. But again, like I spend 2 nights a week down in London. Um, that's okay. And it means I can go to events and host events and do all that stuff. But that's precious time away from my family. And I think as the team grows, you start to think, actually, does it always need to be me? Does it need to be me doing all these things and going to all these things? Can we empower the team to do some of these things? So, more recently, from a marketing perspective, you'll notice it's not always me that's hosting the webinar. I mean, admittedly, I'm speaking to you today, but it's not always me hosting the webinar or doing the white paper or doing the comment in the relevant publication. Like, we're trying to get the team to do more of that to help raise their own profiles, but also to try and get the balance right with myself.
Okay. And I know you do a lot of mentoring. Can you just talk to me about what you kind of do and why you got involved on that side?
Yeah, like I was when I left school, I was desperately looking to find a mentor that could help me, and I met a guy called Neil Adams, and I'll never forget. He took me under his wing for around 2 years, and every Thursday I'd go around his house, and he taught me so much about not just marketing but life in general. And he's a dear friend of mine, and so I think actually off the back of that, I always had this feeling that I needed to like repay that to the next generation of person when I had the opportunity to do so. So I started doing that, and I get a huge buzz out of mentoring and coaching others. And I hope that I can share some kind of wisdom that helps them make the shortcuts, so they don't have to go through some of the pain that I've gone through. But then I met someone like Marcus at Fountain. He's been another great mentor of mine, and tons. I've been so fortunate with mentors over the time. I think the big thing for me is that I really want to give back, and sometimes when you're working super hard and you're trying to balance a home life and stepchildren, etc. Like you haven't got loads of time to do that. So when I have, I just I've had to say no more recently to things like that. And I think that's when I a friend of mine and a bit of a mentor figure, Ben Lang, from Shopify, a really good guy, and Leon actually from Piper. We've talked before about pillars. So imagine like you've got a health pillar, and you've got a relationships pillar, and you've got a work pillar, and you've got a seeing friends pillar and a family pillar and all those good things. Like score them out of 10 and then just think like where are they at any one given time. And actually right now, health pillar is probably pretty poor because I'm not giving it time and energy because I'm focused on other stuff. Work pillar is okay, albeit I could do with taking a bit of time out and catching a breath. And then I look across the other pillars, and actually home pillar is okay. I'm spending a bit of time at home, and I'm really enjoying spending time with Nikki and the kids and that side of things. But then over there, friends pillars, I haven't spent much time with friends, so that probably that needs picking up. So yeah, I'm always juggling and certainly not getting it right all the time by any stretch. But I guess all you can do is just do your best, right? And as long as you have the emotional awareness of yourself to be like, okay, I can see I've neglected that, and you take time to check in and review that, then you can do something about it. Whereas if you bury your head in the sand and just work, 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 you get to a point where actually everything you're working for is no longer there.
Yep. A friend of mine likens the balance to a ballerina. So from a distance, it looks like they're kind of perfectly spinning. But if you look at it kind of under the microscope, it's loads of tiny little steps and it's constantly shifting and balancing.
That's a
So,
really nice way of putting it. I never heard that one, but that's absolutely spot on.
okay. I saw recently that you were at Parliament. My question here is, what are your thoughts on kind of the UK and yeah, I guess from a kind of business perspective, where are
Yeah,
you, what geographies are you guys looking at?
I was hugely humbled to be invited, and what do I think of Parliament right now? Well, I think the same about Parliament now as I have for the last 10, 12 years, which is another friend of mine and mentor figure, Phil Budd, always told me about controlling the controllables. And right now, no matter what I think about them, I cannot influence their decision making single handedly. I do not have a voice there, and therefore I have to make do with the circumstances that I'm given. Um, if I sat here and said I dislike their policies, their lack of ambition, their lack of support towards entrepreneurship, fine, but actually, no amount of me disliking it is going to change it. So, what can I do about it myself that kind of circumnavigates that? And so, is it that actually we're going to go and set up business in other territories? Does it need to be the UK? If the UK isn't going to give you the environment that you need to set up and grow a successful business, then does the business have to be in the UK? And that's why we started to look at Dubai last year or the year before, even to set up out there, and possibly the US. Like, if the UK isn't going to be right for us, it doesn't mean we're going to leave the UK. But at the same time, why wouldn't you explore other territories that do encourage entrepreneurship, that do encourage the right culture and environment? Why wouldn't we focus on that?
So do you think the future for Quickfire is more international?
I would like to think so. The challenge I've got always is that the bright lights of international expansion can mask the fact that there's a lot of business on your doorstep. I think depending on what day you ask me, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to do Dubai, we're going to do US, and I'm like, actually, we've got tons to do here in the UK. I think certainly for the next 6 to 12 months, the UK will remain the focus. If we manage to get the business to the position we are hoping to get it to, with a management team in place, with the right structures, with less reliance on the founders, then absolutely, why wouldn't we explore other territories and see what opportunities are out there?
Perfect. Okay. Well, Nathan, that is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. Just two questions to kind of round off. First off, if people or brand owners want to get in touch with you, what kind of size businesses should you kind of be talking to and how can they reach out?
For sure. So, firstly, massive thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it. I think if you'd like to get in touch, please just connect me on LinkedIn, Nathan Lomax. You should see me on there, or go to our website, quickfiredigital.com. In terms of size of business or type of business, I'm happy to help any ecom business that's looking to scale and generally hungry to scale. Having said that, a sweet spot is probably brands doing 750K upwards. So if you're in that space, then I would absolutely love to have a chat and see how we can help you unlock your next level of growth.
Perfect. I will put the information in the description. And final question, is there anyone else that you think would be good to have on the podcast?
Yeah, good question. I mentioned a chap called Marcus Hemsley earlier from Fountain Partnership, and I'd recommend having a chat with him. His way of looking at life and business has always inspired me. So I'd certainly recommend chatting to someone like that.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks for coming on, Nathan.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.